And we'll continue with A House Like a Lotus by Madeleine L'Engle. I got up to the restaurant at 2 minutes before 8, and the doors were just opening. I was the only person there, though people did begin to trickle in after a few minutes. It was a beautiful open-air restaurant with lots of plants and candles on all the tables. I had a waiter who spoke good English, so I didn't try to practice my Greek. He was concerned that I was all alone, so I told him about Uncle Sandy and Aunt Rhea, and that they would be with me on Tuesday. This seemed to reassure him, and he began explaining the menu to me. And I didn't think it would be polite for me to tell him that I had a Greek aunt and was used to Greek food. Anyhow, I liked his taking care of me, and he was a kind of surrogate uncle for an hour or so. 2 couples came in and were seated at tables between me and the view of the Acropolis, and I think one man thought I was staring at him when all I was trying to do was see the Parthenon. Dinner tasted good, really good, and that in itself was a big improvement. I ordered fruit and cheese, and my waiter told me that if I lingered over dessert and coffee, I'd see, if not hear, the Sun et Lumiere show at the Acropolis. I ate slices of pear with brie, a French rather than a Greek dessert. I don't have a sweet tooth, and I'm not fond of baklava or any of the other pastries dripping with syrup. Spreading the soft brie on a crisp slice of pear, I felt a presence behind me. Thought it was the waiter, and turned. It was the black-haired kid who'd raised his eyebrow at me while we were sitting in Constitution Square, and he was tall, taller than I. "Hi, Red," he said. If Sandy and Rhea had been with me as planned, I'd have ignored him, though likely if I'd been with Sandy and Rhea, he wouldn't have spoken. I intensely dislike being called Red. "Saw you walk over to the King George from the square this afternoon," he said. "I'm Zachary Gray from California." "You are American, aren't you?" "Yes." Did I really want to talk to this guy? May I sit down? "Feel free." I still wasn't sure. "What's your name and where are you from?" he asked. He was really spectacular looking, with black eyes and long black lashes. I envied him those lashes, though I'm happy with my own eyes. Kate would have fallen all over him. I didn't exactly want to fall over him, but I decided I did want him to sit down. "I'm Polly O'Keefe, and I've come from an island partway between Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina." "You don't have a southern accent, almost English." "Middle Atlantic," I corrected him. "I spent a lot of my childhood in Portugal." Max's accent was softly southern, not jarringly, just a gentle musical rhythm. "So what are you doing all by your lonesome in Athens? Are your parents with you?" "My parents are home on Beniceid Island. I'm here for a week, and then I'm going to Cyprus. What are you doing here?" "Just bumming around. I'm taking a year off from college to wander Europe and get some culture." He didn't look like the typical American backpacker. He looked like money, lots of money. The waiter came over and Zachary greeted him. "Hello, Aristides. This young lady's a friend of mine." "Yes?" I told Aristides that I'd never seen him before in my life. I almost told Aristides that I'd never seen him before in my life, but I shut my mouth on the words. I was lonely, and being picked up by a desirable young man was a new experience. Zachary ordered a bottle of Retsina. It's a white wine soaked over resin. It tastes like the Delphic Oracle. Rhea looks down her nose at Retsina, but Zachary went on. "There are other Greek wines which are much better. I just happen to like it." Aristides, by the way, means someone who is inflexibly just. "You speak Greek?" I asked. "A few words and phrases. You pick it up." A waiter's name which means inflexibly just would be fine to set down in the journal I was supposed to be keeping for school. "How do you happen to know Aristides?" "I like good food and pleasant places to eat, and Athens is my favorite city. I infinitely prefer it to Paris or London or Rome. How come you're going off to Cyprus right at the beginning of the school year? You don't look like a dropout." "I'm not. It's an educational trip. I'm going to be a gopher at a conference in Osea Thiola." "How do you get chosen for the job?" "I'm not afraid of hard work." Zachary said, "Your parents must trust you to let you come this way all alone and stay all by yourself at a hotel in Athens." "They do trust me," I said. I didn't think it necessary to say they had no idea I was all alone in Athens. "So where's this place on Cyprus?" he asked. "Osea Thiola. It's a small village with a conference center in what used to be a monastery." Maybe we'll have a chance to get better acquainted before you go. I decided when I spotted you this afternoon that you were someone I wanted to know. How to respond to this? Kate would have known exactly the right thing to say. I didn't. I'm glad your parents put you in the King George. You'll be safe here. His tone was condescending. What's your agenda for tomorrow? I replied firmly. I'm going on a bus tour. I didn't want this Zachary taking too much for granted. No, not a bus tour, Zachary said. They're all the pits. You're coming with me. He sounded very sure of himself. I happen to be free for the next couple of days, and I'll give you the $1 million tour. Aristides brought the wine and 2 glasses and looked at me questioningly. No, thank you, I said to him, not after I spent all last night on a plane, and my internal clock is all mixed up. Zachary started to protest, so I added, I'm underage anyhow. And Aristides nodded at me and took my glass away, then poured some for Zachary, who held the glass out to me. Take a sip at least. Because of Ria's taste in wine, I'd never tasted Retsina. Maybe my tastes are low, but I liked it. It made me think of pine forests and Diana walking through the fallen needles, her bow slung over her shoulder. Aristides moved away to serve another table, and Zachary looked at me over the rim of his glass. Zachary really was in Athens on his own, while my being by myself was because of some kind of crisis in Sandy and Ria's work, and I was suddenly grateful that my parents cared enough about me so that I was not like this Zachary or the other kids checking in at American Express for their money while their parents did whatever parents do who just want their kids out of their hair. How old are you? Zachary asked. Nearly 17. He leaned toward me. It's hard to tell by looking at you. I'd have thought you were older, except that your blue eyes are a child's. I'm not a child. Thank God. Tell me about this Beniceid Island where you live. It sounds as though it's out in the boonies. Beniceid makes the boonies look metropolitan, I said, but isolation is good for Daddy's work. What does he do? He's a marine biologist, I said briefly. We've learned never to talk about Daddy's experiments because they're in an incredibly sensitive area and in the wrong hands could be disastrous. But Zachary seemed to expect me to say something more, so I added, my father needs a lot of solitude for experiments that take a long time to show any definitive results. Isn't that hard for you? How do you feel about all that solitude? I shrugged. I have 6 younger brothers and sisters, so it isn't all that solitary. He nearly swooned. 7 kids! What got into your parents? You Catholic or something? I shook my head. Sometimes I wondered myself what had got into my parents. It seemed to me that when we were living on Gaia, they felt they had to repopulate the island all by themselves, so we'd have people to play with. Who of all of us would I send back? Not even Zan, who's the one who rubs me like sandpaper. From my seat, I still had a good view, despite the middle-aged man who thought I was looking at him, and suddenly the walls of the Acropolis were lit by soft-moving lights shifting from pale rose to green to blue. Look, I said. Zachary turned around in his chair and back. It's pretty vulgar, Ria would have agreed with him there, but I'll take you tomorrow night if you like. Again, I didn't know what to say. Yes? Kate says boys don't like it if you're too eager. The only person I'd ever dated was Rennie, and I'm not sure having pizza with Rennie even qualified as a date. He was an intern, and I was a kid who listened to him talk. I pushed the thought of Rennie away. If I was going to go out with Zachary the next day, I ought to know something more about him. When you finish getting culture and go back to college, where are you going? What are you planning to be? One at a time, he said. I'm going back to UCLA and I'll be studying law. My pa's a corporate lawyer, and I mean a multinational corporate lawyer with his finger in pies on every continent. As I thought, money. I watched the lights shimmer on the hillside and then blink off. I'm taking this year off to find out what I really want. I'll tell you what I want right now. I want to spend tomorrow with you. With me. This extremely gorgeous-looking young man wanted to spend the day with me. It sounded a lot better than going on a bus tour with a lot of people I didn't know. I wasn't sure I trusted Zachary, but I didn't have any reason to trust a lot of strangers on a bus either. So here we are, both on our own. Zachary reached across the table and lightly touched the tips of his fingers to mine, and I think we can have a good time together. Not only had I not mentioned to Zachary that my parents had no idea I was on my own, I also did not tell him about Sandy and Ria. He went on. When I saw you in the square this afternoon, you reminded me of a wild pony, ready to shy off if anybody frightened you. You still have that look, as though you might suddenly leap up from your chair and vanish. You're sophisticated enough to be eating alone on the roof of the King George, and yet you have an innocence I haven't seen in anyone your age, and I don't know how long. For want of anything better to say, I murmured, I've lived on the islands most of my life. I was expecting to take off for Corfu tomorrow, but I'd much rather stay here and show you around. I'll rent a car so we can go off into the countryside. I was flattered. I suspected my cheeks were pink. Kate collects male animals as I collect specimens for Daddy. Going out in the boat to get squid or whatever he needs. Nobody anywhere near my age had ever wanted to spend a day with me before. That sounds like fun, but I think right now I'd better go to bed and get a good night's sleep, if I'm to be awake for you tomorrow. I'll take you to your room, he said. No thanks, I'll go myself. Don't you trust me? I shook my head. It isn't you. You are a wild little animal, he said. I'm not a wolf. I stood up. What time shall we meet tomorrow? 10 okay? Sure, I'll pick you up. What's your room number? I'll meet you in the lobby. Okay, pretty Paul. I suppose you have every right to be suspicious of some guy who's just picked you up. I'm staying at the Hilton, by the way, because it has a better view. Wait till you see it. Lobby of the King George, 10 a.m. tomorrow. I look forward to it, I said. I was glad I'd already signed for my meal, so I could just walk away without looking back. And we'll pause there.